Allow me to translate. When the President of the United States calls you an intolerable threat, yeah, the time to negotiate is over. There's no more negotiating with Iran. You are an intolerable threat, and we are done. The bombs should have been like, it's really interesting when you negotiate with President Donald Trump, and I guess, I don't know if they don't know this or if they just don't care or whatever, but when Donald Trump says something, and they've had multiple, like Donald Trump said, hey, listen, in my first term, you got to stop trying to make nuclear weapons and you have to stop terrorizing people. And they said no. So they blew General Soleimani, boom, right off of the face of the earth with a drone. Nobody else, no American casualties. It was pinpoint accuracy at the Iraqi airport. It was fantastic. Then later on in his second term, he said, hey, you guys got to stop with the nuclear proliferation. We don't want you trying to enrich this uranium. You can never have a nuclear weapon. You can never have a nuclear weapon. You can never have a nuclear weapon. How many times did we hear that? You know what I heard the most during the last campaign? Here's what I heard. I heard, close the border, which was great. Massive, most massive deportation effort in history. I heard that. I heard, make America great again. And I heard Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And then they said, we're going to make one anyway. And boom, the bombs hit again. And you'd have thought after that, first time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. Third time, though, you're going to be, jerking Donald Trump around after you tried to assassinate him. I mean, here's the guy. Think about this. President Donald Trump twice was the target of an assassination. We believe it multiple times. Iran targeted him in various different capacities that were thwarted. You can't try to kill somebody and not think they're not going to take that personally. Donald Trump's not going to say, you know what? Keep coming for me. I'm going to negotiate with you. No, he said, look, here's your chance. I'm going to send you a letter. Stop with the nuclear mumbo jumbo. And Iran said no. So what did they get? They got labeled intolerable threats and they got targeted them in various different capacities that were thwarted. And they're still getting bombed. Tehran not think they're not going to take that personally. Just getting annihilated for like 60 hours. Trump's not going to say, you know what? It's been 60 straight hours of this. There's another one. I don't know. I don't speak whatever language of Farsi or whatever it is. I don't know if they got labeled intolerable threats. Hopefully they're not screaming and yelling or anything like that. But I'm just telling you, it's really, really phenomenal. Anyway, that's what's going on in Iran. Donald Trump, by the way, he just came out and he gave an update. Donald Trump just came up and there was a Medal of Honor ceremony. And the Medal of Honor ceremony, what happened was they're giving out the Congressional Medal of Honor, and right before the Congressional Medal of Honor is handed out, what President Donald Trump does is he comes in and he starts speaking. And he says, hey guys, let me give you an update on what's going on. And the update is very positive.
Let me provide a brief update on Operation Epic Fury. Today, the United States military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. Following our obliteration of Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer a short while ago, we warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up, but they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. In addition, the regime's conventional ballistic missile program was growing rapidly and dramatically, and this posed a very clear, colossal threat to America and our forces stationed overseas. The regime already had missiles capable of hitting Europe and our bases, both local and overseas, and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America. The purpose of this fast-growing missile program was to shield their nuclear weapon development and make it extraordinarily difficult for anyone to stop them from making these highly forbidden by us nuclear weapons. We were the ones that were complaining. We were the ones that wanted it stopped, but everybody was behind us. They just didn't have the courage to say so. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat to the Middle East, but also to the American people. Our country itself would be under threat, and it was very nearly under threat. I was very proud to have knocked out the Iran nuclear deal by President Barack Hussein Obama. That was a horrible, horrible, dangerous document. They would have had nuclear weapons 3 years ago, and they would have used them. But I'll not let that happen.
They are an intolerable threat. Well, I will not let that happen. They will not have a nuclear weapon. And if they continue, I mean, I don't think they're going to continue. I think they're done. I think right now, first of all, they're trying to rebuild. First of all, they're trying to figure out who's in charge. Literally, President Donald Trump, the Israeli Defense Force, and the United States military. I mean, three of the most powerful entities in the entire world. They got together and they said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take out Iran's nuclear capability. We're going to take out Iran's top leadership, Ayatollah Khamenei, and we're going to get rid of them all. And we're going to make sure that the people can rise up. We're going to give them an opportunity to be liberated, and we're going to make sure that there is peace in the Middle East once and for all." And Donald Trump has been doing this in a really epic way. I mean, if you pull back and you look at the chessboard and you look at everything President Donald Trump has done, it really fits into play pretty well. And we'll tell you all about that here in just a second. But President Donald Trump said, look, we're going to do this. And Raising Cane and the CIA and Pete Hegseth and everybody else, all these people that the media keeps saying are, I mean, think about this. The media keeps saying these people are unqualified. These people are crazy. They're drunks. They're party guys. These people are TV stars. None of these people should be in charge of the United States military. They're just cowboys. And nobody likes them. Well, look what they've been able to do now. They've been able to knock out nuclear capabilities in Iran. They've been able to liberate Venezuela by, in a pinpoint accurate mission, going in the middle of the night and arresting Nicolas Maduro, which changed not only the entire Venezuelan country, but also the entire South American continent. And Cuba is going to be next. We already saw a cartel member taken out in Mexico. Changes are coming to the Western Hemisphere, but the Western Hemisphere is always threatened by, of course, the Eastern Hemisphere, in the Middle East specifically, and that's why Iran had to be taken out. But it's all systematic. It was all done. It was all structured. And Donald Trump knew this, and Pete Hegseth knew this, and Raising Cane knew this. And everybody knew it. Everybody except for the Democrats, who seem to be squawking, and Thomas Massie, who is very excited to be working with the Democrats once again to vote to stymie Donald Trump's war powers in a vote that's coming up in Congress. But before we get to that, Donald Trump is saying, look, it's been 47 years. Didn't nobody do nothing? And the buck stops here.
For almost 47 years, this regime has been attacking the United States and killing Americans. Every time you see someone with missing arms and legs or a face that's been absolutely shattered violently, it was almost certainly caused by an Iran roadside bomb. They were put there by General Soleimani, who was the father of the roadside bomb. Very proudly, he thought, but I terminated him in my first term. This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And they are indeed sick and sinister. Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon. Never going to have a nuclear weapon. I said that from the beginning. They're never going to have a nuclear weapon. They were on the road to getting one legitimately through a deal that was signed foolishly by our country.
Barack Hussein Obama. Yeah. Anyway, so it's you get the idea. You get the idea. They were never going to have a nuclear weapon. It's not talk. Like, it's not just a catchy slogan. It's not just a way to get reelected. It's not just a way to rally the troops, get people to the polls. It's not just a way to, endear yourself to other people in the Middle East. Which, by the way, think about it. Let's get to strategy here for just a second, because Donald Trump, I'm trying to find where do I put my coffee? Let me take a sip of it. I'm trying to find a place to put my coffee because I don't know if I want to get into this because this is here. I'm going to, pardon me. Ow. Sorry, I had to bend under my desk. I think I just threw my bag out. I want to get into this because I think this is really interesting. Here's what happened. All right. Let me just kind of show you exactly. I'm gonna break this down for you. I'm gonna use the overhead camera and all. And if you're listening to the podcast, first of all, thank you so much for being here. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, whatever it is, whether you're on YouTube or if you're on Rumble or if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you are, hit that subscribe button so you get all the information all the time. But here's what I want to show. I want to show you this real quick because I think this is really important. Here's what we got. So Donald Trump comes back to power. Okay. Donald Trump is in the White House and Donald Trump knows a couple of things. He knows, number one, that Iran is going to try to get a nuclear weapon. Here's Iran over here, right? They all, I mean, I'm not an artist, but this is Iran and they want a nuclear weapon. And they've been trying to get a nuclear weapon forever. And Iran's been, toying with the United States of America. They've been threatening. They've been enriching uranium. They've been doing all this kind of stuff. So President Donald Trump is like, okay, when I get back to power, we're going to have to make sure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. And he knows what's going to happen. He knows that Iran is going to do whatever they can to get that nuclear weapon. And in order to take them out, because look, this was planned. This whole thing was planned a long time ago. This is not something Donald Trump woke up and said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this now. This was planned going into his administration. I bet he planned this for 4 years. And what's the first thing he did? Well, he went over here to Saudi Arabia and he went over here to all of the other countries. And you got Israel, of course, over here and Qatar and Bahrain and everyone else and all these Middle Eastern countries that surround Iran. And what did he do? He went to all these countries and he said, hey, you know what? I think we need to make a deal. We want you to invest in the United States of America. We want to invest in your countries. We want to make an exclusive deal that is going to be beneficial to everybody. He basically came in and said, let's all be friends and we're all going to get rich. And which country did he not go to? He did not go to Iran. He went strategically encircling Iran with a field of money buddies. And all of these sultans and shahs and all of these Middle Eastern, huzzahs, I don't even know what they're called, but all of these people are billionaires. Donald Trump is going to make them even more billionaire-ish. Donald Trump's probably going to get really rich in the process too. And so will the United States of America. So now Iran has been cut off because people protect their investments. And all of these other countries have invested in the United States of America. All of these other countries are investing in the Middle East. All of these other countries are investing in Donald Trump's vision for the future, a technologically advanced vision of the future with AI and manufacturing and the most amazing cities. He wants to turn Gaza, which is basically rubble, into the what do you call it? The Riviera of the Middle East. Donald Trump looks at Gaza and he doesn't go, God, this place is a dump. You know what he says? He goes, we could pick up this plot of land cheap and then we could build hotels and marinas and casinos and office buildings and put in a Whole Foods with a big kosher section, because you get a lot of Jews. It'd be like whole Jews foods, I guess it would be. But like a big kosher section. And then you would also have the halab or the Hamas and all that. Hamas? No, hummus. Hamas and hummus, very similar sounding, very different though. One is a delicious mushed up chickpea and tahini treat. The other one is a murderous gang of Irani sponsored terrorists. But you get the meaning. So so that was step one. That's the first thing that Donald Trump did. So Donald Trump said, look, I got to get all these money buddies surrounding Iran. So now what happens? Donald Trump comes in here and bombs Iran and the money buddies, they ain't doing a thing. They're doing nothing. They're sitting there going, we're cool with it. Because A, they want the money from the United States of America, and B, they don't really want Iran to have a nuclear weapon either. And why? Because Iran doesn't care about anybody. And how do we know that? Because as soon as Iran got bombed, boom, look at this. They started shooting at everybody, all of their so-called allies, which brings us to their actual allies. Who are their actual allies? Well, China is an ally of Iran. A lot of their drone technology is not Iranian drone technology, it's Chinese drone technology. That's who it is. Russia, Vladimir Putin loves Iran. They've been in bed together for a very, very long time. But Vladimir Putin's not doing a thing. China's not doing a thing. Why? Because they know Iran is isolated. They know that Donald Trump is making his move. And what he's doing is he's not just taking out Iran, but he's weakening a faction for China and Russia. And think about this. What happened before Iran? Over here in, let's see, here's the United States, here's Florida, here's Texas, and then here's Mexico, and then here's South America. Over here in Venezuela, what happened in Venezuela? They went in and they took out Maduro. And what happened when they took out Maduro? All of the oil started coming into Louisiana and Texas. All of the oil is now under the control of the United States of America, and that's why Cuba doesn't have any. So this is strategic. This is where the chess game comes in. Because Donald Trump knows if he attacks Iran, which is one of the largest oil producing states in the entire world, the Middle East is where all the oil comes from. The Strait of Hormuz, which Iran controls, is where the oil needs to go. So he knows if he attacks Iran, what's going to happen to oil prices? Oil prices are going to go up. So what does he do? Before he attacks Iran, he comes down here and he goes, you know what? Let's secure some oil from Venezuela. That way, we're good. Let's get all this Venezuelan oil under our belts. And that way we don't care so much about the Middle Eastern oil. So now that this is solidified and now that Washington, D.C. controls oil in Venezuela, bada bing, bada boom, you go and you hit Iran. The timing was not spontaneous. It was well planned out. It was well thought out. And it's what everybody wanted. Literally, the only two groups of people who don't want Iran to be free are the people that died in Iran and the Democrats. The Democrats are furious. The Democrats are so mad that Donald Trump went out and he liberated Iran. In fact, let's look at. I want to talk to you about. All right, so Jake Tapper did an interview with President Donald Trump. Jake Tapper, because here's the thing about President Donald Trump. He's not scared of anybody. Donald Trump will yell at CNN and he'll scream about CNN and he'll call CNN fake news. And they're all of, I mean, it's accurate. It's an accurate depiction of CNN. But he also knows that, they're a news organization. There's people watching. So he calls up Jake Tapper and he talks to Jake Tapper for 9 minutes. And I want to play you Jake Tapper's recap of his conversation with President Trump.
I just got off the phone with President Trump. It was a roughly 9-minute phone interview.
By the way, could you not have taken off your hat and your hoodie? Who do you think you are, John Fetterman? I mean, he's wearing a hat and a hoodie. I don't know where he is. I don't know what he's doing, but come on, dude, get with the. Anyway, here, I digress.
I just got off the phone with President Trump. It was a roughly 9-minute phone interview talking about the war in Iran. Just want to give you the quotes. He said, quote, "We're knocking the crap out of them. I think it's going very well. It's very powerful. We've got the greatest military in the world, and we're using it." I asked the president how long he thought this war might last. He said, "I don't want to see it go on too long. I always thought it would be 4 weeks, and we're a little ahead of schedule." I asked him if the U.S. was doing more to help the Iranian people reclaim their country than the military strikes, if there was other stuff going on. He said, "Yes, we are indeed, but right now we want everyone staying inside. It's not safe out there." He also suggested it was about to get even less safe. "We haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon." I asked the president about the fact that Iran attacked Arab countries in the region, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE. He said that was the biggest surprise so far for him and his team. Quote, "We were surprised. We told them," meaning the Arab countries, "we've got this." And now they want to fight, and they're aggressively fighting. They were going to be very little involved, and now they insist on being involved. He said of the Arab leaders of those countries, "I know these people, they're tough and smart." The Iranians, he said, quote, "shot into a hotel. They shot into an apartment house. It just made them," meaning the Arab leaders, "angry. They love us, but they were watching. There was no reason for them to be involved." That was probably the biggest surprise. You have to understand they were living under that dark cloud for years, meaning the Iranian nuclear threat. That's why you could never have peace. I asked, okay, well, who's going to lead Iran now? The president said, "We don't know who the leadership is. We don't know who they'll pick. Maybe they'll get lucky and get someone who knows what they're doing." The Iranians, he said, lost a lot in terms of leadership because of the initial strikes. Not only was Ayatollah Khamenei killed, but also 49 other Iranian leaders, he said. It was an amazing strike. They got a little bit arrogant by meeting all in one place. They thought they were undetectable. They weren't undetectable. We were shocked by it. They don't even know who's leading them now. We went down 49, he said, meaning 49 leaders on the leadership chart there. We don't know who's leading the country now. They don't know who's leading. It's a little like the unemployment line.
Okay, so Jake Tapper, by the way, is, I think he can't believe what he's actually saying. Jake Tapper is sitting here going, wait a minute. So the president of the United States is having a conversation. Think about this. The president of the United States bombs Iran, one of the most volatile, one of the most well-armed, one of the most deadly, one of the most terrorist-inclined countries ever to exist, a sworn enemy of the United States. They've wreaked havoc on the entire world. They're bombing their own natives, their own neighbors, their Middle Eastern neighbors, and whoever else they can. And Jake Tapper's listening to Donald Trump. He goes, so why are they bombing the other countries? And Donald Trump's like, beats me. We weren't expecting that either. I mean, imagine Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper's like, wait a minute. What do you mean you weren't expecting it? Nobody was expecting it. Nobody. Qatar did not expect it. Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, they did not expect it. Jordan, Bahrain, none of these countries expected it. You know who expected to get bombed? Israel. Israel braced. Israel initiated the attack. Israel started this attack. Israel knew they were going to get attacked, and Israel was prepared for attacks. The attacks started coming to Israel. They started coming in from Lebanon. They started coming from all over. But Qatar, or Qatar, however you want to go, they did not expect Iran to start bombing them. Dubai. Why did it happen? It's because Iran has given up on any and all hope of having any kind of coalition with them. And also, as Donald Trump pointed out, there's no leadership. And that's the other thing that I imagine Jake Tapper was really shocked about. Donald Trump going, hey, we killed 49 of their leaders. I don't even know who they have left. Which, I mean, if you think about it, that's true. 49 leaders for a country the size of Iran, it's a lot of leaders. Like we've got, I mean, the cabinet is what, 14? How many people in the cabinet? 14 people in the cabinet? I think so. So you got the president, the vice president. Then you've got the secretary of defense. You've got the secretary of state. You got the secretary of treasury. That's 5, right? That's your top 5 people. But then in addition to that, you also have the Gang of 8, which you could count in there as well. And that's 8 more. So now we're up to like, what, 5 and 8 is 13. Then you've got the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So that's another 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 6 now. So we're only up to 20, and we're the 3rd largest country in the world. And I can only count 20 real leaders. We took out 49. And they were all having a picnic in Tehran. How dumb do you have to be to say, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get every single leader, every Islamic leader, every government leader, every military leader, every general, every terrorist leader. We're going to get everybody together. We're going to have a picnic in downtown Tehran at Khamenei's compound. I mean, if I were the CIA, if I were Donald Trump, and I'm sitting there and they walk in and they go, Mr. President, Operation Epic Fury could resume now could begin now because you're not going to believe this, but 49 of the leadership members in Iran are right now at Khamenei's compound in Tehran. We could take them out in 30 seconds. And Donald Trump's like, go, do it. That's a decision. That's an easy decision to make. They made it so easy. They were all in one place. And it took 30 seconds to destroy the entire leadership of Iran. Let's get back to Jake Tapper. There's more with Jake Tapper, by the way. I really enjoy, by the way, listening to Jake Tapper's report on this because he seems so just befuddled.
The president said that they tried to make a deal with the Iranians, but we couldn't make a deal with these people. He said every offer was met with a walk back of a previous offer. They had all that enriched stuff, he said, referring to uranium. They looked at redoing it there. This is after the strikes last June. But it was in such bad shape, the mountain had basically collapsed. The president said, this is the way to deal with Iran. We don't have to worry about agreements. He talked about all of the years, decades of killing and IEDs and all the destruction that Iran has wreaked on the United States and other countries. He said people in the military walking around with no legs, walking around with no arms, their faces shattered. He said that today's military operation was of a piece, part of a larger campaign. We took out Soleimani last time. That's referring to the Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani. He was an unbelievably violent, vicious general. Hitting him, he said, was a big move. If that didn't happen, then you might not have Israel today. Israel might not exist. Then he referred to Midnight Hammer, the strike against the Iranian nuclear facilities last June. They were a month away from having a nuclear weapon. He criticized Obama's nuclear deal with Iran. He said it gave all the power to Iran. They would have had a nuclear weapon 3 or 4 years ago. They would have used it against Israel. They maybe would have used it against us. In the latest talks, he said the Iranians, quote, weren't willing to give us what we asked for. They should have done it. So it's going good, the president said before getting off the phone.
So it's going good. Look at Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper's so unhappy. Jake Tapper's so, a lot of people are unhappy. A lot of Democrats are unhappy. A lot of Democrats are not unhappy, or not a lot, but a handful. You know who's not unhappy? John Fetterman. John Fetterman, who this guy, look, if we don't get a solid candidate, John Fetterman could easily be president one day. I never thought I'd say this, but after he had his stroke, but man, John Fetterman, first of all, he's going to sail into re-election, even though the Democrats are going to do everything they can to stop him. John Fetterman is the most sensible Democrat there is, and he was asked about the War Powers Act. And John Fetterman, who can still has trouble putting together actual words and sentences and thoughts, understands the War Powers Act of 1973 and the U.S. Constitution more than most.
Where does this go now? You have a vote coming up on the president's war powers. How will you vote?
Well, I would really encourage everybody that are watching right now, look up and read the War Powers Resolution from 1973 and what that requires. What that requires is that provide 48 hours of notification, and President Trump had done that. And then that means after 60 days, then they have to withdraw those soldiers, or perhaps even for an extra 30-day extension. Neither of those things have been broken for that. There are no American boots on the ground. So that's why, Epic is now, that was absolutely not, it violates either one of that. And now people, they either don't understand that, or now what they're saying, things are just not true, that it wasn't illegal, or for that, they did not violate War Powers Resolution from 1973.
Right.
Now, this always makes me laugh. Not the fact that we're bombing people and this is one of those things that I guess laugh is the wrong word, but maybe not. So the War Powers Act of 1973 is put in place by Congress to limit the president's power to get us to declare and keep fighting prolonged wars. And it says there's stipulations. The first thing that has to happen is if the president is going to order some kind of full-scale attack on another country, then Congress has to know about it. They have to have prior knowledge. And we know that Congress had prior knowledge because, well, that's what the Gang of Eight was notified. We know that. In fact, let me play you this. Chuck Schumer knew days ago. This was Chuck Schumer last Friday. Look at this. Chuck Schumer last Friday came out of a meeting where he was briefed on what was going on with Iran, and he literally basically almost said we're about to bomb Iran.
This is serious, and the administration has to make its case to the American people.
Now that right there, to me, I feel like is treason. He didn't say, hey guys, we're about to bomb Iran and Donald Trump needs to explain it to the American people because we don't believe he has the authority. But he comes out and says this is serious and the administration needs to make their case to the American people. That to me is one reason that to me is like basically saying we're about to bomb Iran without actually saying we're about to bomb Iran. And that was last week. And then Saturday morning, bright and early, well, we bombed Iran. But the Gang of Eight was notified. Everybody who needed to be notified was notified. There are no boots on the ground. There's no military in Iran. Think about this. There's no military in Iran. There are jets flying over Iran and dropping bombs. Israel, which has no War Powers Act, by the way, which conveniently is flying in, and they're doing a lot of the actual sortie missions and the packages. You've got Patriot missiles flying up from the Tomahawks, flying up from the decks of the battleships and stuff. You've got there's no boots on the ground in Iran. But Donald Trump and his entire cabinet, his entire administration, his entire staff, the Secretary of War, the whole Department of War, they know what's going to happen. They know who's going to squawk. They know who's going to come after them. They know what ridiculous things they're going to say. And they know that they're not in violation of any of these things because they plan accordingly. Also, it's funny to me how, this is the funny part, Donald Trump decides to bomb Iran. What happens if Congress comes back and says, hey, you can't do that? Does Donald Trump say, oh my, you can't rebuild it. You can't undead people. The dead people are still dead. Ding dong, the Ayatollah's dead. Which old Ayatollah? The wicked old Ayatollah. Oh, ding dong, the wicked Ayatollah's dead. You can't bring him back. We don't have, I mean, maybe Elon Musk is working on that technology. I know he's got the brain implants and he's working with Grok and whatever else. But as far as I know, at this point in time, you cannot resurrect people from the dead. It's very, very interesting. The media, some of them are still angry about it, even though some of the Democrats have come on board. Oh, and Mark Warner, by the way, Mark Warner from Virginia, who typically is a raging lunatic, was not so against this idea of liberating Iran.
I will be the first to acknowledge having the supreme leader and other major leaders of the Iranian regime eliminated is good for the region, good for the world.
Yeah, it's good for the region. It's good for the world. Oh, and guess what? The world is mostly in agreement, except for a few countries. The UK, Keir Starmer, that guy, holy cow, what a schnozzball that guy turned out to be. That guy has no backbone. He came out not in support of the United States. He came out and said, we will not allow you to use our air bases. Then, fun fact, British and UK air bases in the region got attacked. So he said, okay, now you can use our air bases, but only for defensive purposes. And even earlier today, he refused in the halls of Parliament to proclaim support for, his ally. We're allies, we thought. The U.S. and the UK, yeah, we had that whole skirmish 250 years ago, but we're good now. We're good. We were supposed to be good, but Keir Starmer is rolling over and he is not in support of this action. Emmanuel Macron is not in support of this action. You know who is, though? The rest of the world, the UN. Here's Mark Rutte. Mark Rutte coming out and saying, yeah, you know what? We're all good.
First of all, say that my thoughts are with the service.
Pardon me, NATO, not the UN. NATO, not the UN. Let me, before you guys start blowing up my text.
First of all, say that my thoughts are with the service members, the U.S. service members who made the ultimate sacrifice over the last couple of days. And let me also say that the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, I really commend what is happening here. Taking out Khamenei, taking out the nuclear capability in Iran, but also taking out the ballistic missile program in Iran. This is crucial. And what I see in Europe, I spoke with all the key European leaders over the weekend, is widespread support for what the president is doing, and also making sure that when it comes to logistics, access, defending key U.S. interests in Europe and in the region, the Europeans are really stepping up.
Are they? I guess he's got to say that. I guess he's got to say, yeah, the NATO allies, we're really stepping up. We're going to help Donald Trump out in any way, shape, or form that we can. In fact, they should, because you know what happened? Get this. Iran started to attack a British and French and Italian and European country. They attacked Cyprus. They shot missiles at Cyprus. Why? Well, because there's air bases there and there's naval bases there. They're attacking anybody. This to me is the equivalent of Middle Eastern death by cop. Iran is boxed in, they're surrounded, they're outgunned, they're outmanned, they have no leadership, they have a bunch of random revolutionary guardsmen out there just firing rockets wherever they can. They're trying to hit Dubai, which ain't gonna have it. They're trying to hit Qatar, which ain't gonna have it. They're trying to cut, I don't think they went after Saudi Arabia because I think they're not that stupid, but they're doing everything possible. And I think they know that the end is near, so they're just trying to take out as many people as possible. They're just trying to be as annoyingly destructive as possible. But they're not forming alliances. They're not forming allegiances. They're burning every single bridge that they have left. And it's because, again, there's no leadership. Nobody's leading them. And yes, that's a dangerous situation. Yes, we're not really sure what's going to happen after that. Yeah, could there be civil war? Hopefully not. If the people rise up, and Donald Trump's been telling the people to rise up ever since day one. He's like, guys, this is your chance. We've opened the door. Walk through it. Take back your country. It's not like January when 32,000 of you were killed for speaking your mind. That guy's gone. Hopefully you can replace him with new, better leadership that will not kill you if you say something bad about them, that will not try to hang you publicly if you speak out against the regime. That's not what we're doing anymore. We've got new leadership in charge. There's a new sheriff in town. Even Canada, this is shocking to me. Even Canada, Mark Carney, that just sounds like a clown name to me. Mark Carney came out in support of this operation today, eh?
Canada's position on the developments in the Middle East remains clear. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East. It has one of the world's worst human rights records and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons. Canada and our international partners have called consistently upon the Iranian regime to end its nuclear program, including at the G7 summit in Kananaskis and with the United Nations reimposition of sanctions this past September. We've sanctioned over 250 Iranian entities. We've listed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity. And despite numerous diplomatic efforts, Iran has neither fully dismantled its nuclear program, halted all enrichment activities, nor ended its support for regional terrorist proxy groups. Canada stands with the Iranian people in their long and courageous struggle against this oppressive regime, and we reaffirm Israel's right to defend itself. Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. And the Canadian government urges the protection of all civilians in this conflict.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So, by the way, it's very difficult to take anybody seriously who's standing in front of a leaf. It's very difficult. And I grew up in Canada. I know all about it. I was born there. The maple leaf is the national symbol. It's really weird. It's a really bizarre, kind of weak symbol to stand behind, but that's what they're all. So here in the United States, it's like, what do we choose as our symbol? How about a bald eagle, the carnivorous, swooping, large eagle that is strong and stalwart, and we'll put arrows in one fist. So it's an eagle with arrows, and then we'll have an olive branch too, but mostly arrows. And we're going to put the eagle, which swoops down and devours its prey and then soars off in majesty with arrows in its fist, so that just in case it misses its prey, boom, it can shoot it with an arrow. That's going to be our symbol. And the Canadians are like, we're going to take this leaf and this is going to be our symbol of this leaf symbolizes everything we stand for. The maple leaf. Anyway, it's really, I digress. So Canada is standing up for the United States of America finally. And this is what we always knew would happen. Mark Carney or the other guy who was there before, they can talk tough and they can say, no, we don't want to be the 51st state, and you're insulting us, and we're not going to buy your booze, we're not going to sell any bourbon. No American bourbon will be sold in Canada. Take that, They can do that all they want. They can yell and scream about the bridge that Donald Trump's shutting down. But at the end of the day, when it comes to nukes and when it comes to war, they know. Yeah, Iran having a nuke would be bad, because if they go to New York and they ignite it, well, New York's real close to Canada. So we don't want that, Chicago. Oh, Chicago. If they nuke Chicago, if the Iranians had a nuclear bomb and they bring it into Chicago, you know what also happens? Canada gets hit, Detroit. All those big cities right on the border? No way, We don't want any part of that. We don't want nuclear weapons here in the Western Hemisphere. They don't want narco-terrorists in the Western Hemisphere. They don't want communists other than them in the Western Hemisphere. And that's why they don't balk when Donald Trump does something like this. They know better. And Donald Trump has done something which is incredible. It's really amazing. The amount of support that this action has worldwide, but specifically in the Middle East, is all thanks to President Donald Trump and his negotiations. The fact that he went on that tour earlier this year, the fact that he went to Bahrain and he went to Abu Dhabi and he went to, where else did the United Arab Emirates? He went to Qatar and they gave him a jet. Remember? He went to Qatar and he said, hey, let's make billions. And they said, great. What can we do to thank you? And Donald Trump says, how about a big jet? And they go, done. Get our biggest Boeing 777 or 750, whatever it is, ship it over. Look, done. You got the jet. What else do you want? And Donald Trump says, well, I'm going to bomb the snot out of Iran. Are you cool with that? They're like, absolutely, as long as we can continue to make the money. And you know how we know that the United States of America has a better relationship with Qatar than Iran does? Because Qatar just shot down Iranian jets.
Harris, I do want to start with some breaking news. We've learned from Qatar's defense ministry the country shot down 2 Iranian jets that entered their airspace. We know that they've been receiving attacks from the Iranians, and they have been taking action not only now to shoot down jets, but also incoming ballistic missiles. The Qataris have also ceased production of liquefied natural gas in their country for the first time in 30 years over these attacks. This comes as the war is expanding overnight. The Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah launching rockets into northern Israel. The Israelis responded with airstrikes against Beirut. You can see this smoke billowing from the Dakhya neighborhood of southern Beirut. As this is taking place, we know the Lebanese prime minister is calling on Hezbollah to stop the fire. But so far, the Israelis say they have to keep the pressure up on this Iran-backed organization to discourage other proxies from joining into the fight. Throughout the day across Israel, Iranian ballistic missiles have soared through the skies of this country. We watched as some of them were intercepted in the skies above. One missile, though, slamming into the southern city of Beersheva, where officials say at least 10 Israelis were wounded and taken to local hospitals. Israel's prime minister speaking today from one missile impact site, warning the Iranians if they continue this fire, they'll get hit hard in the capital of Tehran.
Yeah, they're getting hit. I mean, this is what's happening. We know that it's happening right now. There it is. He said, boom. I don't know what he said. Oh. Boom. I think he's cursing, so we're going to start. I don't know. It sounds like a curse word in American, so maybe it's a curse word in Farsi too. I don't know. I don't speak Farsi. I only speak American. But look, that's it. And everybody is when you have Qatar, when you have the Middle East firing and shooting down Iranian jets, it's over for Iran. There's nobody. Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, all these people, they are on the side of the United States of America. Saudi Arabia, I lied earlier. I believe they tried to hit an oil refinery there. I believe that's what they tried to do. I'm not sure if they hit it or not. Kuwait, yes, they're shooting our jets out of the sky, but it's an accident, apparently. Kuwait shot 3 of our jets out of the sky. I know that's not good because those jets are expensive. And oh yeah, there's American soldiers, but they all ejected supposedly. And the Kuwaitis, they didn't know. And here's the thing. I heard it was friendly fire, but then they were confused as to who they were shooting out of the sky. And then but they did round these guys up.
Yes, 1 minute.
Here's one of them. Here's Kuwaitis. They found one of the pilots and they put him in the trunk of a minivan. And they're like, don't worry, we're going to get you. They're like, we're going to get you to safety, bro. And they know. And look, and Americans anywhere, if they're shot down, are going to get taken care of. Donald Trump's going to make sure of that. Our military is not leaving anyone behind. But look, there are people who are angry about this. There are people who are mad about it. And of course, one of them is Thomas Massie, who has, Thomas Massie has some really great ideas. Thomas Massie makes some really solid stands. Thomas Massie understands the Constitution, but I think Thomas Massie is in danger of becoming a caricature of himself. And Thomas Massie posted a poll because he doesn't want Donald Trump to have unilateral power like he does thanks to the Constitution and the War Powers Act of 1973. So he said already, I'm coming back to Washington. I'm going to work with Ro Khanna, which doesn't sit with working with Democrats never sits well with me. I get that you're a libertarian. I get that you're a constitutionalist. I get that you have these arguments you want to make. But when you side with the Democrats repeatedly, it's just, it's tough to convince the rest of America. But he posted that. This is kind of funny. He posted this. He wrote, "Do you think the American people think Congress should debate the objectives of war with Iran and vote on whether to wage war so the mission for our military is defined?" And 25% said Congress should debate. And 37% said, no, just trust the president. And 38% said, just end the war now. So of the 3 options he gave, Congress should debate got the least amount of votes, 25%. So he did what anyone would do, which I don't understand this either. Look, this never ends well, by the way. He deleted the poll. Now, again, I've had some experience with posts on the internet that never leave, that go viral, that you think you can delete, but you can't. I've had some experience with that myself. Here's the thing about the internet. It's forever. And you can delete that poll, but it's not deleted. Somebody has that poll somewhere. And so Thomas Massie realized his poll wasn't dead, and he had to go in and explain why he deleted it. And he gave the worst explanation possible. Ended this poll one hour in as the accounts from Cyprus and Europe tried to hijack it again. Elon Musk, can we have a feature to limit X-poll interactions to users in the United States of America? So it's the old poll troll patrol, whatever it is. It's the old, my poll got hit by trolls, so I deleted it. Well, look, first of all, if you're going to take a poll on a social media platform, that is always a danger. That is always, you cannot expect to get the results that you want to get just by posting a poll, because there are people on there that are smarter and more technologically advanced than you are. But also, don't take it down. After 35,000, it's just a bad, again, he's caught between a rock and a hard place, because he believes that anything President Donald Trump does without the approval of Congress is unconstitutional, which is just not the case. And I'm a constitutionalist. I'm all about the Constitution. I love the Constitution, every word of it. I love freedom of speech. I love freedom of the press, even the CNN part. I love freedom of religion. I love I love the right to bear arms. I love all that stuff. But there are certain powers granted to Congress and certain powers granted to the president, and they are separated, but they are both important. And the president of the United States, while not having unchecked power to wage and continue to wage war, has the power to do exactly what Donald Trump did. And it's been proven over and over again, not just by him, but by other presidents like, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton. Did Joe Biden ever attack anybody? No, he did the opposite. He failed miserably and got Americans killed while withdrawing from Afghanistan. That's what that was. And then he checked his watch, because watching all those coffins go by was just so boring. He was like, I got better stuff to do. I'm gonna check anyway. Listen, pray for Thomas Massie, because he's again got an uphill climb, and he's pledging to work with the Democrats once again, which is tough. And it's tough for a couple of reasons, because nobody in Iran does not like this, except of course the dead people. Like I said, Iran. Let me see. I don't even know if I still have these. There were these Iranian people, and it's happening all the time, just dancing, just having a blast. Not the blast, not like the boom, not like the bomb blast, but probably blast was the wrong choice of words. But listen to this. Here we go. Listen to this. Is an Iranian American Democrat.
I think that it is imperative the Democratic Party wake up and get past their dislike of Donald Trump, the President Trump, and their feelings of international conflicts going on. This is about national security. This is about what is possible in the Middle East. This is about being a good neighbor, good partner to the Gulf states and what their aspirations are. This is about supporting the people of Venezuela. This is about dismembering our relationship with, or not dismembering, but resetting our relationship with China. Right now, 55% of the oil production that Iran produces goes to China despite sanctions. You want to support the people of Ukraine. You want to end that war. You have to. There is no getting around dismembering this Islamic Republic. It is non-negotiable. It is not a want to have. It is a have to have. And it's not just for the Iranian people. I think you have to trust the Iranian people. We know this government better than anyone else. When you dismember and decapitate this regime, you are going to see a change in the Middle East, in Venezuela, in China, in Ukraine. And I think, quite frankly, their ideology has it's caused a lot of problems for us worldwide. We need to take it seriously. And I think at this point, we have a tremendous opportunity. This will be like ending the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall. This is a transformational moment for humankind, for security. And as an American, this is in our interest to complete it. So I am a Democrat. I have been a huge Democrat. I am incredibly disappointed with my party. I do not see myself in them in this moment.
This is a transformational moment. As Americans, this is like the Berlin Wall falling. This is like the Soviet Union being destroyed and coming down, the Berlin Wall. This is a transformative moment for the United States, for the Middle East, for Russia, China, and Ukraine. This is something that will have nothing but positive effects. And I am a Democrat, she says. And I am ashamed of my party, she says. And I do not see myself in this party in this moment. Because they do not understand what this means for the world. Iranians, which again, I would have to say, look, and I'm not Iranian, I'm American. But if I lived in Iran, or if I knew anything about Iran, or if this were my country, if this were where my family's from or still lives, and this happened, I would understand the joy. But think about this. If you go in the middle of, it wasn't even the middle of the night, it was the morning. If you wake up at 9:00 in the morning to bombs in your country, a foreign powers are coming together and bombing your government. Foreign powers are coming together, bombing your government, killing your leaders. And if that happens, and your first thought is, thank God for the bombers, if your first thought is, thank God for the foreign governments infiltrating our airspace and killing our leaders, thank you for them. If your first thought is not, run and hide and burn American flags and chant death to America and build a great big Donald Trump visage that you can light on fire in the town square. If that's not your first thought, but your first thought is, let me find an American flag, wrap myself up in it, and go out and dance a jig because I'm so excited. I'm so excited my country got bombed. Thank you to the bombers for killing our leaders. How does anybody see that as bad? These are Iranians. This is Los Angeles. These are Iranians, supposedly. I don't even know if they're Iranians. They may have just gotten out of, I think everyone in Los Angeles does this. But look, they got the drum and the flags. This is telling too. I want you to look at this. You will see Iranian flags, Israeli flags, and American flags all waving around. When does that happen? When does the Israeli flag ever get celebrated? Israel liberated Iranians, so now they're friends with Israel. America is America, and so now everybody is like, look at that, and they got the ain't no party like a Donald Trump party because a Donald Trump party don't stop. Ain't no party like a Donald Trump party because a Donald Trump party don't stop. Woo! That's what they're doing. I mean, it's amazing what's going on, and it's not just in LA. It's also wherever this is. Oh, I gotta turn the music down because we're gonna get copyright. Is this Miami? I don't know. No, I don't know where this is, but look, they're holding up signs that say, thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. Iranian here. Thank you, Trump. All these Iranians they're thrilled that Donald Trump liberated their country and got rid of their person. And it wasn't just Donald Trump. It was, this guy's got an afro and a flag. Oh, look, there's the American flag. There's Israeli flags. Everybody is excited. These are massive crowds of people. These are the people who we bombed. I mean, these aren't the people that we bombed, but this was our country. They knew what was happening. They knew what needed to be done. And they are so grateful to Donald Trump. And you know who's not? The Democrats. The Democrats are upset. The Democrats are mad. The Democrats and Thomas Massie, they want Donald Trump to stop. They want Donald Trump's power gone. They don't want any of this happening. Where was it? Ro Khanna. Where was it? I got Ro Khanna in here somewhere. And he walked out of a hotel. Here it is. Listen to this.
Has launched a war on Iran. Donald Trump has launched a war on Iran. The Congress must reconvene on Monday to vote on Thomas Massie and my war powers resolution to stop this war. Trump says his goal is to topple the Iranian regime. But the American people are tired of regime change wars that cost us billions of dollars and risk our lives. We don't want to be at war with a country of 90 million people in the Middle East. Every member of Congress must go on record today on how they will vote.
Okay, now you're wondering why does it sound so hollow and echoey? It's because he's standing outside of a luxurious hotel in Washington, D.C. He was at dinner. It was some swanky dinner. He walked out and he's standing in the foyer, whatever, in front of a fountain at a luxury hotel. And he's trying to make this plea to the American people. Please, your Congress people have to come forward and they have to speak on the record about being against this war. We're tired of these wars. Yeah, you know what? Look, are we tired of wars? Absolutely. Do we not want regime change wars? No, we don't. Do we not want nation building? Of course not. Do we not want our troops in Afghanistan for years and years and years? No, but that's not what this is. The reason we're tired of it is because that's what everybody else did. Everybody else was like, Let's just go live in Iraq for a while with no clear plan on how to do anything good and just watch our soldiers get tired and dejected and injured and deplete our resources. That was the plan before. That's not the plan here. The plan is get in, bomb the snot out of them for a couple weeks, and get out. That was the plan with the nuclear facilities. Donald Trump went in and went out. Venezuela. Donald Trump didn't send troops into Venezuela to stay there. He went in, he neutralized the threat, and he said, okay, now what are you guys going to do? And they came to the table, and there's no American troops in Venezuela. Donald Trump doesn't work that way. Donald Trump put Pete Hegseth in charge of the Department of War. He said, get rid of the DEI, get rid of all the woke crap, build me an elite fighting force that is the most highly trained, the most technologically advanced, build me a fighting force that can execute action quickly and get out with 0 American casualties. Give me the most lethal fighting force. I want the kabam, the shock and awe. The shock and awe that we always were promised with George W. Bush, Donald Trump is actually delivering. And he's doing it with Raising Cane, and he's doing it with Pete Hegseth, and he's doing it with this amazing military. And we have more. There is nothing Iran will be able to do to win this war. There's nothing Iran will be able to do to sustain. And Donald Trump said, look, we're ahead of schedule. Why? Because Iran was probably nowhere near at capacity. The reason I think they were all getting together to fight was because they had no nuclear proliferation. They had depleted resources. Venezuela probably put a hit on them because every time Donald Trump cut off an Arab country from Iran, that was a hit to Iran's pocketbook. Barack Obama was out of office, so they couldn't just call up and order another $400 million worth of cash to be dumped on the tarmac. Joe Biden was out of office, so they couldn't call him up and ask for another $2 billion to be sent in relief. They couldn't call Joe Biden and say, hey, all those accounts that Donald Trump froze with, hundreds of billions of dollars, we need you to unfreeze those because we want to restart our nuclear program. They don't have that anymore. So I think they were getting together trying to figure out WTF do we do now? And wouldn't you know it, ironically, WTF do? They all get blown to smithereens. They all got killed. And now it appears that Donald Trump is going to be victorious in a very, 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 very short time. And probably by the time they vote on this War Powers, the War Powers Act gives Donald Trump 60 days anyway. I think he knows that. That's why he said 4 weeks, because he knows there's 60 days. But he's going to do it in much shorter time. There was another clip. Donald Trump had the Medal of Honor ceremony, which was really moving and touching. I'm not going to get into that too much, but just know that it's business as usual here. This is the other thing that's important. This is happening very quickly in a part of the world that Donald Trump has planned for this to happen. It's not this is well planned. It's well thought out. Donald Trump's in total control. The military's in total control. We have the strategic alliances we need. And Iran is slowly dwindling through their whatever resources they have left. The show goes on. Donald Trump he was talking about the big, beautiful ballroom today. He's like, by the way, we're going to be building this great, big, beautiful ballroom behind me. It's going to be amazing. The jackhammers are going 24/7. By the way, the economy. By the way, Trump accounts. By the way, the border. By the way, ICE. Tom Homan was there. He's like, Tom Homan's doing a great job. ICE is still getting attacked in Minneapolis. And guess what? The SAVE Act has to be passed. And guess what else? DHS funding needs to be restored. That's really what needs to happen. I think before the War Powers Act, because look at what happened in Austin. I'm not going to share the video because it's graphic, but in Austin, this guy who is, we believe, a terrorist sleeper cell, this guy had a sweatshirt on that said, property of Allah, right? Is that what it said? Yeah. And he goes into Austin and he shoots up a bar and he kills 4 people and he injures a bunch of others. And this is now what we believe to be an act of terror. Here he is.
A picture. And this is what we're finding out per multiple federal law enforcement sources to our own Bill Malhusian. The Austin mass shooter is a 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen who was born in Senegal and was living in Pflugerville, Texas. Material recovered from his person and inside the vehicle give possible indications of a nexus to terrorism, as the FBI announced earlier.
I want to show that. Hold on. I don't want to show that bloody shirt thing. I wanted to show just the image of him. But basically, when you look at it, what happened, here he is. Property of Allah. This is what this guy looked like. This was the shooter. He made no bones about it. Yes, there's probably more sleeper cells. Yes, there's probably more attacks being planned. Yes, there's probably more Americans that are going to get hurt because of what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, the Department of Homeland Security does not have funding right now. It's been shut down for 3 weeks. So before Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna and the rest of the Democrats go into Congress and demand a vote on the War Powers Act, we should demand a vote to reopen the Department of Homeland Security. Before there is a vote to curb Donald Trump's military power as commander-in-chief, we need a vote to restore funding to the Department of Homeland Security so that Americans who are now under threat of all kinds of sleeper cell activity in the wake of this attack are now going to be protected by the Department of Homeland Security, by the government that they voted for. That's the first vote we should have. That's the vote we need right now. I say we start there. Then if you want your War Powers Act vote, fine, have it, because I'll be honest with you, I think it's going to fail. I don't think there are enough Democrats in Congress or in the Senate to stop President Donald Trump from dismantling Iran when it is the right thing to do and the popular thing to do. And when the entire world is on your side, with the exception of the United Kingdom, Iranian Republican Guards members, and the Democrat Party. When the rest of the world is on your side, I don't think it's a smart thing to vote against it, and I don't think anyone will, especially in an election year. And you know what else? If they don't open up the Department of Homeland Security in a time of crisis like this, the Democrats will also take the blame for that. It's really going to be really, really wild. Now, the Texas primary is tomorrow, and I've seen different polls on this. I've seen polls that say Jasmine Crockett is leading James Tallarico. I've also seen polls that say James Tallarico is leading Jasmine Crockett. I've seen polls that say John Cornyn has a slight edge. I've seen polls that say Ken Paxton has a slight edge. The last article I read had Jasmine Crockett winning the Democrat nomination and Ken Paxton winning the Republican nomination. And this is weird because the consensus is that John Cornyn is the stronger statewide candidate for the Republicans and Ken Paxton is not. And the consensus is that Jasmine Crockett is the weaker Democrat candidate for the Democrat Party, and James Tallarico would be more of a crossover candidate that could take more of a bite out of it. So you're going to have the two weaker candidates, I guess, on either side winning the primary unless something dramatic changes tomorrow. But if you have a Crockett-Paxton, if it's Ken Paxton versus Jasmine Crockett for the Senate seat in Texas, it's going to be, mark my words, the most expensive campaign in history. It's going to be the most expensive campaign in history. It's going to be one of the craziest campaigns in history. You're going to see every Republican, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, everybody is going to be descending on Texas, doing whatever they can to get Ken Paxton elected. And I don't know what it's going to do for John Cornyn's votes in the Senate either. But it is going to be a wild, wild few months. Listen, a lot of people are concerned about the stock market, of course, because of what's going on. The stock market's always volatile whenever there is any kind of action going on in the world. And that's why I trust gold. I don't know if you trust gold, but I trust gold, and you should probably trust gold too. Gold and a gold IRA is a much more stable investment in any times, especially the tumultuous and times of turmoil. If you have a gold IRA, it's more likely to go up and to last through any kind of conflict, I mean, gold has been going up just consistently for years. Nobody ever goes, man, I'm so bummed I bought gold. But how many people are so bummed they bought Bitcoin these days? How many people are so bummed that their 401ks are collapsing? MarksWealthStrategy.com is where you can go to get your free gold guide from Augusta Precious Metals. MarksWealthStrategy.com is where you go to get your free gold guide from Augusta Precious Metals, your premier gold IRA company. You fill in your information, you get it free. If you like, you can just call them up at 844-963-4677. Either way, that's going to put you in touch with a professional at Augusta Gold and Augusta Precious Metals who will tell you all the benefits of a gold IRA. And if you have $50,000 or more in your investment account right now, this is something you should, as a responsible American, look into, because you want to protect your family and your finances and your freedom and your future. Or you can text wealth to 35052. That'll get it done either way. Either way, listen, I hope you do. I hope you check it out. I hope you realize that we are on the right side of history, and I hope you realize that we are winning. And I hope you subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you hit the ding-a-ling so you get notified every single time we go live, every single time there's new content for you to devour and learn from and engage with. You're going to get it. Hit the little ding-a-ling. Subscribe to this channel. Stay informed, stay entertained, stay enlightened, stay in the know, stay knowledgeable, stay sharp, stay armed. So that anytime it happens, anytime you need to stand up, you'll be ready to fight, so we can save the Republic.